the BYU Cougars in New England to take on the Minutemen.
Let's see if it's a payback win for BYU here today. BYU won the toss. They deferred, so UMass will receive the opening kickoff. Breeze at the back of Andrew Mickelson. And Marquise Young will let it sail out of the end zone, and UMass will bring the offense onto the field. Again, last week in the 62-59 victory over Liberty, a program record 777 yards. Ross Comas making the start at quarterback. Andrew Ford done for the season after suffering an ACL injury against Coastal Carolina. This will be start number 8 for Comas in his career and his 30th appearance.
And I expect this UMass offense to try to take a little bit of the air out of the ball, slow it down somewhat, but Ross Comas's ability to run the zone read could be very big today against these BYU DNs.
They get it right into the hands of Andy Isabella. Mark Whipple telling us this week they want to shorten the game here against BU, that they want to get the ball quickly into the hands of Isabella, hand it off to Marquise Young, try to move the chains, and try to keep the game moving a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what they want to do is they love their no huddle, but they're going to pace themselves. There are going to be times where they're going to step on the accelerator.
9 yards on first down, and Isabella makes a move to pick up a first down for the Minutemen.
Well,
2 quick catches for Isabella, 79 receptions on the season.
Like they just moved the stadium and kept going, right? Like last week it was a ton of Andy Isabella, and Mark Whipple gets Isabella involved early. But as we mentioned, I think there are going to be times where they're going to slow it down, they're going to speed it up, they'll try to take advantage of this BYU defense in terms of some of the substitution patterns, as Kyle Horn is dinged up right around the 40-yard line. Mark Whipple went out there to go check on him. Horn, the tight end, came in with 161 yards receiving. That's a part of this this UMass offense that hasn't developed yet, is the tight end over the middle. That might be something in play today.
Taylor Edwards comes in at tight end for Horn. UMass out of the eye with Austin P.A. leading the way for Marquise Young, and a good first carry for Young. Give him about 4 yards. Marquise Young averaging 77 yards a game, 5.5 yards a carry. Back-to-back 148-yard days for Young, UConn and Liberty.
Yeah, I think when this offense gets rolling and Andy Isabella starts catching passes early, it then opens things up in the run game as you now see Comas out of the pistol.
Again, to give to Young, BYU is there with that very stout front. Peely, Tonga, El Bakri, and Kafusi, the guys who will lead the charge up front. And there you see Siani Takitaki, who's gone from the defensive line to linebacker. You can use him any way you want. And Mark Whipple was curious as to how BYU would use him against UMass's offense here today.
Well, Takitaki's only 230, so they could slide him back a little bit. He's thin.
Third down play, Comas throwing, has a man wide open. It's Sadiq Palmer who has a first down for UMass. Sadiq Palmer's first career reception was here at Gillette Stadium, a touchdown catch against Mississippi State, but this is coming back, holding on UMass. So take the first down off the board. UMass averaging 51 yards per game at penalties. Larnell Coleman, the sophomore from Malden, Mass, whistled for the foul. You see big Lucas Coulter has returned, number 74. Looks like UMass is pretty intact up front with Ray Thomas Ishman, Jake Largay, Derek Dumais, Coulter, and Coleman. Mike Girardi will rotate into that offensive line as well. He started last week.
Yeah, that group has been together for a long time, played a lot of football. They'll need to use that familiarity today.
So third down and long for Comas and the Minutemen, thrown underneath to Isabella, and he was grabbed up high by Kafusi. That's Isaiah Kafusi. And this should be a personal foul to move the chains for UMass.
Yeah, that was a blatant grab of the face mask right there. And you mentioned I think there's about 5 Kafusis on defense here. And it catches at the very end. Yep, that's a
hard rip.
Yeah, it is. That's a takedown. That's why you saw Isabella put the ball on the ground.
Defense, 15-yard penalty.
So Isabella's over on the sidelines right now. He seems to be okay. Athletic training staff not talking to him, but that was a turn and a pull hard down on Isabella's face mask.
Yeah, whenever the ear hole heads towards the nose, that is, that's not what you're looking for at all. And I would envision Isabella getting back out there pretty soon. But the bigger story is that after the penalty from Larnell Coleman, BYU bails out UMass on 3rd and long.
BYU averaging 57 yards in penalties per game as Young picks up a couple on 1st down.
And I think the run game has got to be varied a little bit. We've seen Avian Peya in the game, the fullback already. We've seen them run up the middle. Now they're pressing the edges. You know, there's a big boy right there, Kairos Tonga, 6'4", 310 pounds. You see Corbin Kafusi, 6'9", 275. Big people.
Handoff to Young and thrown down by Tonga. 3rd down play coming up.
And this is where I think Mark Whipple is looking at it as the offensive coordinator and the head coach and saying, okay, if we're 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, I think I can handle that, and we should be able to convert against this BYU defense. But if we get to the 2nd quarter and towards halftime and the run game ain't working, Mark Whipple's not afraid to scrap that game plan and start flinging the pill all over the lot if need be.
With that in mind, Isabella back into the game, split to the right. 3rd down. Comas has room to run, and he has the 1st down, reaching forward, and that will move the chains for the Minutemen. Umass had 38% on 3rd down conversions this season.
And notice that Comas ran to the side of where Isabella was, because you know you're going to get corners and safeties that are going to sink back. He does a good job of sticking the foot in the ground and getting the 1st down, does Ross Comas. He is not afraid to be tackled.
Comas throws to Sadiq Palmer as UMass offense averaging 458 yards per game. That's good for 26th in FBS football, scoring 35 a game.
Well, the one thing they also do is take care of the football. Only 9 interceptions. Comas only 2 heading into this game.
Comas to throw again. Now Comas to run, and Comas spins for the 1st down to the 10-yard line. We talked to Mark Whipple about what Ross Comas was doing for UMass over these last couple of weeks. Comes in, and he had played all season long, but Ford was the primary quarterback. But Comas wasn't sliding down to avoid contact. He normally doesn't, but here's a guy who's got a couple of games left in his college career. He is just laying it all out as he gives to Young here on 1st down.
Yeah, and he uses that spin move very well. You wouldn't think a quarterback would be using a spin move to make people miss, but that is a part of the Ross Comas run repertoire. And I think that when you get into these passing situations and he breaks the pocket and can do stuff like this and get you an extra 5 yards, it keeps the chains moving, and it forces these BYU defenders to have to really stop and think and break down to make sure they get him to the ground. And the more he runs like that, the more the zone read will come into play later in the game.
Kyle Horn back into the game. 2 tight ends for UMass as Comas takes it himself, stopped at the 5.
Well, there's your zone read right there, where he pulls it and tries to get into the end zone, but he runs right into the teeth of this BYU defensive front. They rotate a lot of people, they play a lot of guys, but they've got a lot of experience, both older college football players, considering the way BYU is structured, where you go on a mission and you come back. You got very experienced people and veteran guys out there who know to just kind of, stem that tide a little bit. BYU is not going to panic.
Another 3rd down play for the Minutemen, opening drive of the game. Comas in trouble, ducks inside the 5. It's going to be about 1.5 yards short of the 1st down marker. Well, now where they're spotting it, maybe 2 yards short. And UMass will bring the field goal unit on.
UMass goes to the zone read there, trying to take advantage of Comas's legs and what the BYU defense is giving them. And even though it is not going to result in a touchdown, a chance here for a field goal, in terms of time, it's exactly what Mark Whipple was looking for.
So here is Cooper Garcia, who had to wait a while before trying the game-winning field goal against Liberty, but nailed the 22-yarder in the 3rd overtime. Peter Camarado, the snapper, Theo Young, the holder, and Cooper Garcia hooks it through, and UMass scores on their opening drive of the game.
Well done by UMass. It's exactly what they were looking for. Didn't get 7, but got 3. But they ate up half of the quarter here at Gillette.
You can get more 11 Sports Daily by following on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at 11 Sports USA. Find out what events are coming up, information about teams and players, and what games will be streaming live on different social media sites. Follow 11 Sports USA now. 14 plays, 75 yards. Took 7 minutes and 3 seconds.
There you go. That's exactly what Mark Whipple talked about. Would love to have a touchdown. But as you see the ball come off the tee for Cooper Garcia, and he tries to set it up. Cooper Garcia is kicking into a very big wind here at Gillette. And the design of the stadium at Gillette is interesting because it allows for airflow to kind of run through this stadium. So whichever way the breeze is coming, it's much more pronounced on the field. So I expect that Cooper Garcia, he's going to try to boom this thing, but it might get fielded around the 10, 15-yard line because it's pretty stiff right now.
Matt Hadley is back deep to take the kick. Hadley will let it head out of bounds. Yeah, the wind just swirling, as Andy mentions, and it helped push that out of bounds. So BYU will start out at their own 35-yard line.
Yeah, I thought there might be a chance to kind of kick that thing and sort of squibbing along the ground. And that's the tough part of kicking here in Gillette Stadium, is trying to figure out the wind patterns. Worked for UMass on the first drive, and you saw Mark Whipple talking to Cooper Garcia right there.
So Mark Whipple gets a 21-yard field goal from Cooper Garcia. That field goal is a distant memory, apparently, in the eyes of the head coach, as he's a little disappointed with the kickoff that followed that field goal.
Exactly right. Don't give up that field position to young Zach Wilson, the quarterback for BYU.
The true freshman out of Draper, Utah. His 4th start. Olivehifo in motion, and the ball is free, and the ball is recovered by UMass. What a start for the Minutemen. Jake Bisco comes away.
Well, they never got the ball handed off properly from Zach Wilson to Hifo, and that ball just bounced on the ground. And then there's big Jake Bisco. Second time he's fallen on the football this year.
So Bisco takes over.
Yeah, Bisco doing a good job of grabbing that football. And what field position for the UMass offense. And even though the game plan going in, Eric, was let's take the air out of the ball, this might be an opportunity here with a short field to press the issue and try to punch one in the end zone.
So Kalani Sitake's team a +1 in turnover margin. They had 3 turnovers last time out against Boise State, and Comas is looking deep out of the turnover rather, and Isabella can't haul it in on first down.
Yeah, Andy Isabella is a guy who is not only being looked at by the National Football League, but every team we've seen this year has said coming in, well, you got to stop Isabella, got to stop number 5. No one has been able to stop number 5 this year, whether it's Comas or Andrew Ford, who is out for the rest of the year with a knee injury, throwing him the football. And Izzy lining up at the bottom of the screen.
Comas takes it himself and picks up about 3.
Mention how much attention Andy Isabella gets. You saw there BYU trying to shift the secondary over to where Isabella was to make sure they didn't give up the deep shot. That's why you see the run to the right side. And that's Isaiah Kafusi right there, the sophomore. Came in with about 30 tackles on the year, and another one of these BYU linebackers who can move around and play different positions.
3rd down and 6. Comas has Young open, and Marquise Young fights forward for a UMass first down.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the trend in football, whether it's college or pro, running backs who have the ability to catch it in the flat and then take it and do something with it. And you see there's no one there. And then Marquise Young decides, I know how I'm going to get this first down, and he runs through the tackle of Isaiah Kafusi. Good use of size by Young.
Comas fakes the handoff, holds on to it, and a pretty good gain on first down for Ross Comas, who ran for 2 touchdowns, threw for 4 touchdowns against Liberty last time out.
Yeah, that game against Liberty was bonkers. I mean, that was video game type numbers that we saw out of the UMass offense. 540 yards passing for Ross Comas, 303 of it to Andy Isabella alone. But Comas does a really nice job of managing this offense and not putting the ball at risk.
Gain of 6 on first down for Comas. He'll hand it to Young this time. Pyle moves forward for a couple. 3rd and short play coming up for the Minutemen.
You know, as this clock ticks down inside 6 minutes here, Frito, BYU with 1 offensive play to this point, and if this keeps up, this BYU defense is going to get gassed pretty quickly. Even though they have the ability to rotate a lot of people, you put a defense on the field for this long, it's going to drain you quick.
3-0 Minutemen, 5.5 to go in the opening quarter. Young has enough for another UMass first down, so they have been effective on 3rd down so far, keeping the clock going and moving the chains.
Yeah, and I think this really is a credit to Mark Whipple, the play caller. We hear so much about Mark Whipple and his offensive abilities, but knowing and trusting what his team can do. Look at that push there by the UMass offensive line to try to finish that off. He throws a lot of formations at you, and as you see, inside the top 10 in terms of first downs per game, they churn on offense.
1st and goal from the 4. Comas tucks it away, moves towards the pylon, and is inside the 5.
It's one of the things you love about Ross Comas is he keeps the ability to throw the football, and then as soon as you see him tuck it right there, you know that he's looking to run. And the tight end Kyle Horn, as soon as he saw Comas tuck that football in, he turned around to try to find somebody to block on the sideline.
Second and goal for the Minutemen, trying to cash in after a BYU fumble on their first play from scrimmage. Sadiq Palmer in motion. Marquise Young turns it up. Marquise Young reaches into the end zone for a UMass touchdown. The Minutemen cash in after the turnover. Point after upcoming on top 9-0.
Well, Mark Whipple, we just mentioned his ability as a play caller and drawing up formations. That time they take Ray Thomas Ishman, flip him over to the right side, so it's a little bit of an unbalanced line. And part of the reason Young gets in the end zone is because he's running behind both of his tackles, Larnell Coleman in his normal right spot, and Ray Thomas Ishman, who flipped over to essentially line up as a tight end.
The senior gets into the end zone. 31st touchdown of his UMass career. Garcia hooks it off the upright and played the angle just right. It's good to make it 10-0.
So they flip a big boy over to the right side to get a gigantic rear end for Marquise Young to run behind. He finds the big bums and gets into the end zone. UMass takes advantage of the turnover with a touchdown.
Nothing UMass over BYU in the first. Did you know 11 Sports has a digital channel? 11 Next is on twitch.tv. Tune in weekly to watch football, basketball, hockey, darts, rugby, Quidditch, and more. Streaming live on Twitch. Follow us at 11 Sports Next and never miss a minute of the action. A field goal and a touchdown for UMass here at Gillette in the first quarter. And Garcia will keep this kick in play. It's taken by Hadley at the 15-yard line. And Hadley out to the 30. where BYU will bring the offense onto the field. It was a quick trip to the field for the BYU offense on their first possession. Hefo fumble, and UMass turned it into 7 points.
Yeah, very much so, and great job by Jake Bisco jumping on the ball, but think about it, 4:07 to go in the first quarter, and BYU is about to just now run their second offensive play.
Cougars have had the ball for 9 seconds. Zach Wilson will give it to Squally Canada, and there's Brighton Barr. I know we're still early in this game, but I encourage everybody to hang around at halftime, because before today's game, Andy Gresh had a long conversation with the 7th-year grad student, Brighton Barr, about his long journey to this point here playing for UMass at Gillette Stadium. It was great. It was fun to listen to, and now will be coming up at halftime. That's the quarterback, Wilson, with it. Big gain for BYU, and the freshman keeps going. He can beat you with his arm and with his feet. Took over from senior Tanner Mangum, who started the first 6 games of the season. They see a lot in this kid, obviously, and you saw his big playability on the ground for the first down.
Well, as soon as Wilson gets out the gate, it's a great job by number 84, Neil Pawu, who does a good job of blocking downfield to give Wilson some extra room and some extra yards, and BYU now threatening, and they hurry up and line up to the line of scrimmage.
36-yard run for the quarterback. Under center here on first down. He will throw. Has a man open inside the 5-yard line. First and goal for BYU. That's Dallin Holker, the freshman tight end, his 13th catch of the season. Overload
to the left side, and they stress this UMass defense. A little play action, and the tight end just slides right behind the safety Bryce McAllister there, and now BYU threatening first and goal.
Hadley in the backfield with Wilson. Play action to Hadley, throw into the end zone, and a touchdown for the Cougars. Talon Shumway has his second touchdown of the season, and BYU is on the board.
Too easy. Way too easy. UMass's offense has held the football. They put 10 points on the board, and in about 3 plays, the defense has given up that touchdown. What a throw there by Zach Wilson, where only Shumway can catch it. Little down and in action for Shumway to catch that touchdown.
Skylar Southam on to attempt the point after. He's now 22 of 23 on the season on extra points. And the junior with his 17th catch of the season. This goes for a touchdown. BYU answering back with a quick drive. 4 plays, 69 yards in a minute 39. It's 10-7. Both BYU and UMass eligible for a bowl invitation. For UMass, they got to run the table. They got to win today and against Georgia next week. For BYU, they have 3 games remaining, including New Mexico State, then a very tough Utah team after that. So must-win mindset for these two teams if there's any hope for some postseason play. If you're going to say BYU is going to be a big underdog against Utah, team they've lost to 7 straight times. Good answer by BYU, getting the touchdown, marching right down the field, and now the kickoff will once again go for a touchback. As you said a couple of times on that drive for BYU, too easy against UMass's defense.
Yeah, and I know the slant route is there. You get a little bit of off coverage, and hey, we're just going to put it on a wide receiver, but too big a chunk on that run from Wilson, and then it was just too easy. It was like BYU knew exactly what they were going to do, and Kalani Sitake, the head coach there in his 3rd year at BYU, has got to be happy with how his offense has responded without really possessing the football very long here in this first quarter.
2 possessions for UMass, 2 scores, a field goal and a touchdown as they come onto the field for their 3rd possession. Isabella gets it, and BYU was ready for it this time. That's Michael Shelton, who came up to make the play. Redshirt senior, had an interception against Boise State last week in that game that went right down to the final seconds. Heartbreaking loss for the Cougars. Shelton gets the stick, loss of 4.
Yeah, and Shelton is one of these guys who will play the run, can come up and tackle. They'll also use him as the nickel corner.
BYU, another hit. This time it's Zach Simon who's hit for a loss soon after making the reception. So a different look for BYU defensively.
Yeah, they go, or UMass tries to set up the screen one way, tries to set up the screen the other way, nothing working. So you know what's going to come. Mark Whipple's going to recognize that, and next time we're going to get a play action with a go route to Isabella. That'll take away that aggressiveness from those corners of BYU.
Third down, 14. Comas goes short to Simon, and BYU makes quick work of UMass's offense on that series. Fourth down, and Georgopoulos will punt into the breeze.
We've talked about this at various times this season with this UMass offense. You can't play from behind the chains. BYU brings the blitz, so automatically Comas says, well, let me get it to the crossing route on Zach Simon, and they just take that away. BYU defense eats up UMass on that drive.
Shelton standing at midfield as George Georgopoulos, the freshman, averaging 39.3 yards a punt, goes into the wind, and this isn't going to go very far. It does take a good bounce for UMass and keeps rolling. So that's a good break for UMass. And it rolls inside BYU territory to the 37-yard line.
You know, I wondered if they were going to go to Travis Reynolds, the second-string tight end, but also their rugby punter. He's from Australia, Australian rules football, rugby. Keep that ball low, down in the wind, and try to get it to turn over end over end, but a pretty good punt into a very stiff wind. If you're a golfer, that's a good 2-3 club wind you'd be hitting into there. Georgopoulos hitting that punt.
I don't have that club in my bag. Here's Hadley. Waits for things to develop and finally falls forward to pick up a couple. Well, we do see out on the field today Isaiah Rogers. Remember, he left the Liberty game with an injury. And Mark Whipple telling us this week, he said, yeah, he's walking around. He's going to have an MRI. And we were trying to read the tea leaves a little bit and say, well, that doesn't sound like we're going to see him on Saturday. But the cornerback, outstanding cover corner, is out there today for UMass. Second down and 9. Good play by UMass up front. Previty. Bryce McAllister. There for the stop, and that will be the final play of the first quarter. UMass dominated in time of possession in that first quarter, and a third and long play coming up for BYU when we start the second quarter after this. Eric Freed, Andy Gresh, Bill Spalding, our 11 Sports crew here at Gillette Stadium in Foxborough. 10-7 UMass. Third down and 12 for BYU. And underneath the Hadley, pressure from behind and reaching to make the tackle was Ruane. And that's going to be about 4 yards short of the first down.
Boy, what great hustle by Mike Ruane, who reads this screen right away and gets on the hunt from the backside. Doing a great job of bringing Hadley down there just before he gets the first down. Pretty good play call by BYU as well. UMass kind of bailed out. If it wasn't for the hustle of Ruane, it would have turned into a first for Hadley.
Ruane, the sophomore from Middletown, New Jersey, has been excellent on special teams, been getting more opportunities in the defense. Low line drive, kick comes firing through everyone blocking downfield, and it didn't hit anybody. Good for UMass. And that will be down to the 23-yard line from Rhett Almond, the senior, as BYU will bring the defense onto the field.
Yeah, and they got big beefers up front. We talked in our open about Corbin Kafusi, but look at these guys across the board. Trajan Peely, the little guy at 6'2", 247, but Tonga's a beefer inside. El Bakri as well, the normal size defensive lineman, 6'2", 285, and then you see big Corbin Kafusi at 6'9", 275, and a very difficult matchup for the UMass tackles today as Kafusi flops over as UMass goes a little unbalanced.
UMass has had a little bit of success on the ground. Ross Comas, their leading rusher, and here's Marquise Young stripped of the football, but his teammate falls on top of it.
Yeah, Ray Thomas Ishman falls on the ball. And if there is one criticism of Marquise Young, is that at times he gets a little loose with the football, and you see it comes too far away from his body and easy to pop out. Let's say they missed a face mask in there too. But you see how that ball starts to come away from the body. You don't want to see space between the body and the football. Keep it tucked in nice and tight.
That's the 21st fumble for UMass this season. They've lost 14. They've put the ball on the ground quite a bit. Young, after picking up 7, got a short gain, about a yard or so here, so a third down play coming up. So for Marquise Young, he's rushed for 26 yards. Ross Comas 39 yards so far for the Minutemen. Comas very efficient passing, 8 of 9. Short passes, though, 39 yards.
And you'll take that because those are essentially extensions of the running game. And as we talked about, it keeps the clock moving. UMass taking their time here.
Play clock down to 7 as Comas snaps on third down. Pressure from behind. Comas fumbled, and it's recovered again by an offensive lineman. This time, Larnell Coleman is the one who picks it up for the Minutemen. So a couple of fumbles on that possession for UMass. They're forced to punt.
Well, when Comas starts to move in the pocket, the ball really doesn't get away from him very often until he starts to try to dodge people and puts the ball over the shoulder pads. See right there how the ball got up? Easy to be able to knock it down, and a great job by Larnell Coleman to regain possession and give Georgopoulos a chance with the wind at his back.
Bracken El-Bakri is the one who forced the fumble. Georgopoulos, great kick here, and the wind's going to push it back a little bit. Shelton calls for a fair catch.
Ooh.
And you can see how the wind just kept pushing that back. That was a pretty good grab right there by the redshirt senior. Timeout on the field, 12:03 to go in the second quarter. 3-point lead for the Minutemen at Gillette. After a quick start in this game, things have settled down a little bit. 10-7 UMass, and now BYU's offense coming on the field. More on the quarterback situation. Here's Bill.
Thanks, Eric. You know, you talked about how Tanner Magnum was replaced a couple games back, and it's always tough when you're a 2-year starter and you lose your job, particularly when you're 25, you lose it to a 19-year-old. But these two room together, and I watched earlier this game, Magnum, he's still the energy guy on the sideline. He went right up to Wilson after the fumble. He tried to keep his team up, and he is really engaged on the bench. It's almost like an extra coach.
Wilson throws incomplete. Thank you, Bill. A 25-year-old, I think I would go insane living with a 19-year-old. That is a big gap right there. So Mangum on the sideline, he was guy who put up some big numbers, over 6,000 yards, 27 career starts, a 2-year captain, showing some great leadership as Bill points out. A stick at the line and thrown back, and a good stop on Squally Canada.
Cole McCrubry gets in there. He is the backup to Brighton Barr, and sometimes they play those guys together. And a great job by McCrubry of stuffing it in the hole and forcing 2nd and 10, and BYU trying to go quick. UMass was able to make some substitutions, although they do not have a ton of beef in. I think BYU is going to run it here. Well, maybe not.
Wilson is always a threat to run, and he may have to do it. He does, but he's tripped up in the backfield by who else? Brighton Barr for UMass.
You know, I thought without having the big people in the middle that would have been an opportunity for BYU to kind of hit him with a quick run there, but nothing doing. And you can see the flowing locks of Barr as he reaches back around to be able to tackle Zach Wilson by the shoe tops as he was trying to slide out of the pocket.
Barr entered the game with 123 total tackles, 7th in FBS football in tackles per game average. Another one that gets caught up in the wind, and it's going to roll out of bounds close to midfield, just inside the 45-yard line as Barr heads off the field. As I mentioned, a conversation with Barr coming up at halftime, but what are some of the things that jump out to you about Brighton Barr, the football player? Because you're going to get to know the person a little bit more at halftime, but as a football player, what are some of the things that you've really admired over this past year?
Constant hustle. I never see him dogging it I always see him chasing plays from behind. The thing about Brighton Barr that really stands out is his want to. And I think that as you see, 6th in the NCAA in tackles, but this is a guy who has been able to grind it out and play 7 years of college football. This is a guy who wants it badly. That's why he came to UMass, to be able to play in games like this here today at Gillette Stadium. So to me, it's about the blood and the guts and the fact that he's a guy who never quits. And if that's something he can pass along to his younger teammates, that's going to make UMass a better program in the long run. The numbers are ridiculous. I mean, 123 tackles. You see the 4 sacks, but those tackles for loss for a middle linebacker and 21 tackles against Charlotte, I mean, that's video game type stuff that we see from Barr, and we see it week in and week out here with this UMass defense.
His tackle of Wilson forced BYU to punt, so UMass brings the offense back onto the field.
Unbalanced line to the right, and now with Paya, the fullback, as the wing.
Jordan Fredericks in the game. He's got the carry, and Fredericks bounces it outside. Finally brought down at the 49.
Well, they set it up a couple of times, and we saw when Marquise Young was able to get into the end zone, they flopped the tackle. That time it was Ray Thomas Ishman going from left to right, and then they run to what we would call the split side, where it's opposite of the overload. So Mark Whipple's starting to vary it up by formation, and he's starting to get this BYU defense to think a little bit about the formation and where they could run the football as we see shifts once again.
Dingle and Isabella off to the left. Play action from Comis on second down. Comis almost was stripped again. This time it was Riggs Powell, redshirt senior, who's a walk-on. There you see Powell, who's cut from the team 3 times.
Talk about wanting it, huh?
Played 6 games last year. He actually has a part-time job to help pay for things. Works in the Utah County Assessor's Office and plays football on Saturdays.
How about that?
Had 7 tackles against Boise. 3rd down and 1 for UMass with Isabella in motion. Comis looking to throw. Here comes the pressure, and down he goes. Kafusi gets the sack.
Well, the thought was to bring Andy Isabella in motion and throw it to him short. The problem was Comis, that was taken away, and no feel on the backside right there for Corbin Kafusi, who's working against, it looked like Kyle Horn, the tight end, on the backside. And that's a battle you're going to lose every time with Kafusi at 6'9", 275 against a tight end.
8.5 sacks on the season for Kafusi, 17 in his career. Now here is Reynolds. Gresh mentioned it before, the rugby-style punter. And Shelton takes it at the 10. We'll take a timeout with 8:28 to go in the second quarter. And UMass on top, 10-7 over BYU. Join us Tuesday for UMass basketball as the 2-0 Minutemen host Harvard, 7 o'clock Eastern Time. It's right here on 11 Sports. Chilly November afternoon here at at Gillette Stadium. Foxborough Stadium is a different lifetime ago.
Oh my goodness.
We're old enough to remember that this would be a warm day at Foxborough Stadium. As BYU back on the field, it was always cold there.
This would also be a sellout at Foxborough Stadium too. You see all of the Patriots championship banners there. And not like Indianapolis hanging them for going to the AFC championship game. Only championship banners hang here in Gillette.
Second down play for Wilson. Throws the out looking for his tight end Bushman. It's incomplete. And a 3rd down and long coming up. BYU got to New England Thursday, so they were able to kind of settle in with the 2-hour time change. No excuses coming from Kalani Sitake and this BYU team about it feeling like 10 a.m. coming out here to play. They were excited to play at an NFL stadium.
Yep, they connected with former Cougar Kyle Van Noy yesterday as well with the Patriots heading down to Tennessee.
Kyle Van Noy played for BYU from 2010 to 2013. Wilson on third down, and UMass another 3 and out here for BYU on offense. After they marched down the field with ease, UMass has come up with a couple of stops. And third down has been an issue for BYU this year, converting at 33%. That's 120th out of 129 teams in FBS football.
Yeah, conversely, the UMass defense has had their issues on third down this year as well, giving it up at 40%. So these are big wins for the Minutemen and also winning the battle of field position in a big way.
Another low line drive into the wind, and this is going to be a great field position for UMass, although it was better about 4 or 5 seconds ago as it rolls out to the 49-yard line.
Still in BYU territory, set up to score.
We'll see what the UMass offense could do when we come back to Gillette Stadium here in Foxborough. Bill Spalding telling us during this timeout that Lucas Coulter, the right guard, is into the medical tent for UMass. He has been battling injury over the last few weeks, missed the last couple of games, a senior out of Germany. So Mike Girardi, who has been a fixture on the offensive line, rotating through. He is out there as UMass starts in BYU territory just across midfield with 7:07 to go here in quarter number 2. And back to the ground, Marquise Young. Big run for Young and a first down and a little bit more.
So whenever Mike Girardi comes into the game, he's in at left guard. Jake Largay, the left guard, slides over to the right guard spot, replacing Coulter. And you see Largay doing a good job of getting up and getting a hat on the hat against Sione Takitaki. So the Marquise Young runs it right up behind the big boy. Some versatility in this UMass offensive line.
12-yard carry for Young on first down. Isabella in motion. Comas under pressure. Little jump throw back to Young. This should go into the books as a run for Young, as Comas showing a little creativity to get some positive yards.
I love the creativity, but as a coach, you're holding your breath when you see your quarterback start to look and throw the ball backwards and do it over top of Corbin Kafusi right as he's about to get hit. I love the competitive spirit of Ross Comas. Just make sure you take care of that football or else that guy will get upset.
It's not recommended that you try to do anything over the head of
a 6'9"
Corbin Kafusi.
Guy. Right. Just swat that thing back like he's in the middle of the basketball lane.
Goes in the books as a gain of 6. Not this time, though, as Zach Daw, redshirt sophomore, comes up with the stop.
I'll tell you what Daw just did right there is exactly the way you draw it up as a defensive lineman. Lineman, you're taught, get your hands inside, steer the car. That time, Daw was the guy who just gets his hands on the offensive lineman, shed, and he's right there waiting to make the tackle.
This big BYU crowd trying to make some noise here. 3rd down and 4 for the Minutemen. Comas throws, has a man wide open, and Young couldn't hold on to it.
Did that ball knuckle a little bit? I thought the way Marquise Young reacted, it looked like it kind of took a dive on him there, or it just hit him in the hands and it went right through. Here's what it looked like from Ross Comas' point of view. Yeah, that ball was a little wobbly, but I thought Marquise Young had a chance to make a play.
UMass will go for it on 4th down, but first they take a timeout. Now, this is the second week in a row where UMass has had to play in very windy conditions. If you were with us last week, the Liberty game, a front blew through, and there were gusts up to 40 miles an hour. And here today, with a front coming through, we had rain in the morning. You can see the sun now winning out of the clouds, but as the afternoon goes along, they're predicting gusts pushing 40 miles an hour again. And
Foxborough is a very weird place in terms of weather. For those who live in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you understand that there's this belt from Worcester down through Foxborough. For those watching us nationally on 11 Sports, you're like, what's going on? It looked like it was going to snow earlier. Now the sun is out again, and then the wind is in and out. there's just something about the weather pattern through the whole Worcester-Foxborough area that if there's bad weather or wonky weather, it's at its worst in that belt, and Foxborough and Gillette Stadium just happen to be right in the middle of that area. This is an odd place, it really is, and the wind patterns in terms of kicking, it's always an issue here.
Minutemen will go for it on 4th down. 12 of 25 this season, 4 for 7 in their last 2 games. Comas looks for everything, and Isabella can't get there.
I like that call for 2 reasons. Number 1, it's the first shot that UMass has taken today. Number 2, they take that shot and try to get Isabella on a little go route out of the slot with the wind at their back, making it easier for Ross Comas to try to throw the football and get something down there to Indy Isabella. But fantastic coverage by Dion Gawoloko, one of the safeties in this BYU defense.
Well, one question mark for BYU in the secondary was replacing Chris Wilcox, who suffered a season-ending leg injury at Boise State. He had started each game, the top cornerback for BYU. D'Angelo Mandel getting his first start today. But UMass has not tried to go after that position so far, as Hadley gets pushed back. Well, UMass gave up that easy drive to BYU where they went down the field, 4 plays, 69 yards in a minute 39, but it's been a different UMass team defensively.
Yeah.
How so?
Field position helps. When you're BYU and you're backed up against the end zone there and you're deep in your own territory, it makes it difficult with a freshman quarterback to go out and run your offense, and I think UMass has been able to take advantage of that.
BYU with 10 yards total in the second quarter, and add maybe a yard to it here as Bryce McAllister comes up and gets the stick on Dylan Colley.
I'll tell you the other thing too, Frito, is the wind. We talked about it on the miss to Isabella down the field, but young Zach Wilson is throwing into the teeth of this wind here at Gillette Stadium, and they're not really a stretch it down the field kind of offense to begin with.
They give Colley a 2-yard reception, 3rd down and 8 for the Cougars.
UMass showing pressure.
Now they back off, and Wilson throws to Shumway. Hunt on the coverage, and Shumway just moves it forward for a first down. Well, Shumway has the touchdown reception in this game, and he has a key first down here for BYU on 3rd down.
And Shumway, Frito, using that size. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, and he's working against not only Isaiah Rogers, but Jarrell Addo out there as well, only a 200-pounder. So the size coming into play for the Cougs.
That is the first 3rd down conversion for BYU and a drop on the first down.
I think on the outside, if you give them the slant route as we saw for the touchdown, they're going to take advantage of that because that's a high percentage throw for a young quarterback. We really haven't seen Zach Wilson throw the ball more than, maybe 10, 15 yards down the field, letting it out of his hand. So if you're UMass, you got to be looking at the short stuff first, worry about the deeper stuff later thrown into the wind.
2nd and 10. Plenty of time for Wilson, and he's got a man just short of the first down marker. Hefo, the leading receiver on this team, that's his 25th reception of the year.
And you got to be thinking right now that this throw is going to be within 5 to 7 yards of the line of scrimmage, given that it's only 3rd and 2. This young quarterback, Zach Wilson, though, he stands in there, got command of the offense, I'll tell you that.
Wilson in trouble on 3rd down and 2, but improvises nicely for the first down.
Boy, it looks like UMass had a little something there. Joe Previti was in the backfield engaged with a BYU offensive lineman. Watch 98, Previti. Right, there he is right there. And then Zach Wilson just runs right around the big boy. Bryce McAllister has to come up and make the play. Good job by Previti on the penetration. Couldn't get him down, though.
11-yard run for Wilson, who gives to Hadley. And Hadley breaks free. Hadley cuts back to the 20. Finally dragged down at the 15 by McAllister.
Well, BYU is starting to feel it offensively right now. I know they like to get lined up at the line of scrimmage and then send the play in to Zach Wilson. But I think they might press on the accelerator against this UMass group.
26 yards, and Hadley looks like he wants to throw. He throws it up and incomplete. Broken up by McAllister in the end zone. That is slamming the gas pedal to the floor, looking for something quick and going to the gadget.
That's a great call right there, Frito, is that you're right. They're slamming the accelerator down, but Bryce McAllister right there, a graduate student. He played a bunch of football at UConn. Good job of using that experience to knock the ball away on the gadget play. And I love BYU running the gadget play on first down.
Wilson throws. Moses there defensively. Looks like he had a handful of jersey, but just an incomplete pass. BYU fans on this side of the field looking for a flag. Pass intended for Pau.
Yeah, and I think they were engaged at the line of scrimmage, so a good no call by our officiating crew right here.
3rd and 10 for the Cougars. They've had some big plays on this drive. They have had struggles converting for touchdowns in the red zone in recent weeks.
They need to keep an eye on number 3 in the slot, Dylan Colley, to the right side.
Shumway has it. Shumway has his second touchdown, and BYU has its first lead.
Well, I mentioned Colley. He was open on the out route on the front side, but Zach Wilson looking left all the way, and once again, it's Shumway on another slant route. This time they get Chineno Agbana, number 17 in this UMass defense. See right there, they had him in space, really didn't know how to react to it, didn't have a true cover guy to that side defensively, and Shumway gets it in the end zone for the touchdown.
The point after is good. 1:50 to go in the second quarter. Wilson 15 yards to Shumway, and BYU is in front for the first time today.
Wilson looking at Shumway the whole time, knew he was going to get it to him, and then just slow reactions really from the UMass defense. You had Tyshawn Ingram, who was a linebacker defensive end hybrid out there, Jarrell Addo out there, or excuse me, Chineno Agbana out playing in space.
10 plays, 68 yards, Gresh.
Well, and the one thing that BYU got there, Frito, was momentum as that drive started to get near midfield. It was Hadley with a run, Wilson with the run to keep the drive alive. And once they got going, then they go to the gadget play, as you mentioned, slamming the accelerator down to the floor. They knew they had UMass on roller skates defensively, able to get it in the end zone for the 7.
Mickelson will be kicking into a very stiff wind right now, and Marquise Young has taken a kick back for a touchdown this year, so this should be a very short kick. Let's see if Mickelson keeps it low. No, he goes high, and this is going to hit a wall of wind really hard, and Young comes flying up to take it at the 25, and looked like he was maybe a step away from breaking it outside.
I'll tell you what it is, too. When that ball hangs up in the wind, the up men need to adjust to make sure they're in front of the football. That time when Marquise Young caught the ball on that return, he was in front of the guys who were supposed to be blocking him. That's situational awareness right there, and understanding that the wind is going to knock that ball down, and you have to adjust accordingly. Look at where Marquise Young is. There are 2 people behind him. Looks like Sadiq Palmer and Avian Peya, who are supposed to be out there blocking, and instead Young runs right by him.
BYU with all 3 timeouts remaining. Let's see what UMass is able to do. And Fredericks is thrown down. Taki comes through with the hit. Clock continues to run. 2nd and long coming up, loss of 4.
Well, Taki with the stop right there. Nice job of bringing Fredericks down to the ground. Now, mind you, BYU does have that full complement of timeouts. UMass does have the wind at their back. So if Kalani Sitake thinks that his field goal kicker might not be able to make it into the wind.
Fredericks with a big run. Fredericks tumbles forward for a first down.
Well, it's a moot point now because they got the first down, but my point was going to be is if they get a stop on 2nd down, burn that timeout, and then try to get some field position.
Now it flips things where UMass is picking up the tempo. They've got a couple of timeouts remaining. They've got the wind at their back, and now they're able to throw the football. Umass had Palmer open. Tanner Jacobson, the defender, fell down. That left Palmer wide open, but Umass couldn't connect the pass. I think the forecast, and it just felt like it was windier at McGurk last week, but it didn't have that big of an impact on the game.
Right.
The wind really feels like it has a much bigger impact on this game. We've seen a couple of throws sail or knuckle on that pass to Marquise Young. So let's see how Umass does here. He goes with the short pass to Isabella. Third down play coming up. I don't think UMass is going to burn a timeout here.
Yeah, Gillette Stadium is odd in that because of the way it's built and it's open, there's open ends on each side.
Well, aggressive play here by the Minutemen, and that aggressiveness is rewarded. Emilus down to the 35-yard line. So the Minutemen with a chance to get some points here at the end of the half.
You know, and what I was going to say is that it's open on each end of Gillette, so the wind really swirls around here.
Flag down in the play, another underthrown ball, as Simon was the intended receiver. Let's check on the flag. We haven't heard from Scott Campbell too much today, our officiating crew out of the Big 12.
This is going to be against BYU, I think.
Offside, number 54, defense, 5-yard penalty, still first down.
Yeah, there was a lot of shuffling in and out with that BYU defense as UMass was trying to get up and hit that slot route or route out of the slot. And there you see the unique shape. Now, that is the lighthouse end of Gillette Stadium right there. You can see all the band kids loading up under the under the bridge there because it's going to be the attack of the bands here at halftime at Gillette. But that airflow really wreaks havoc on the kicking game.
Cooper Garcia's long this year is 39. He has attempted and missed from 42.
And there you see that open end, especially there on the left side of your screen where the wind can really whip through.
Umass throws it incomplete. 12 seconds to go.
Well, with the timeout, I mean, you're at, second down now, so you've got timeouts. If you're Mark Whipple, do you try to get it a little closer to set Garcia up for a field goal with the wind at his back, or is this the opportunity that they try to move those chains or take a shot to the end zone?
Well, if you could predict that the wind was just 100% at the back of the kicker, you'd say he's in field goal range. But with that swirling impact, you want to get a little bit closer, and this will qualify. Fredericks inside the 20. That's enough for a first down. 5 seconds to go. Not enough time, you would think, to take one shot into the end zone, and a timeout being called here by UMass, and they'll bring the field goal unit on.
Yeah, that's the smart play right here, because once they got that drive going, hit those couple of routes in the slot right down the seam, UMass got it going to the point to where they're going to get some points, or at least have an opportunity to get some points out of this. So I know they've had 2 bad defensive drives. Otherwise, they've done a pretty good job against this BYU offense so far. It's just a matter of finding a way to put points on the board, and this would go a long way to buttoning up a pretty decent first half for Mark Whipple, even though that face doesn't back up what I just said.
Theo Young will spot it at the 26-yard line. Now BYU will use a timeout.
As they should. The smart thing to do. If for anything, it's not so much about icing the kicker. It's hoping that the wind pattern maybe changes a little bit. And you see number 90 there, right? So that's Corbin Kafusi, and we talked about him a lot. So imagine this. You're Cooper Garcia, right? You're a 5'8", 220-pound kicker, and you're looking over the line where they're going to snap the football, and you see a 6'9" giant with like this bionic elbow thing on his right arm, and he's just staring you down, waiting to block that football. That is psychologically a mind screw for a kicker to know that you've got to get that ball up in the air quickly to make sure Kafusi doesn't knock that thing down.
Garcia connected from 20 to get the scoring started in the first half. Now he'll attempt from 36. No good.
Kaufusi was lined up just to the right of the center, and when Garcia kicked that football, it went to the left of Kaufusi. Look in the middle right there. You see big number 90, and that ball stayed low and to the left. You can't tell me that putting that big boy in there doesn't affect the kicker.
For BYU, let's see if we can pick the hand, but as Garcia got it up, guess who? The guy you were talking about got it, Gresh.
I didn't see that.
6'9".
I didn't see Corbin Kaufusi get his hand on that football, but it doesn't take much, and that makes him a weapon on special teams, having that kind of length. There's two ways you can look at it. It's, oh, he was a basketball player and he's 6'9", so let him take a step and jump as high as he can to block it, or you put his hand down, get him closer to the kicker, and get that big paw on the way.
Garcia, fair catch called for inside the 5, and that will bring the football out. This year, new rule in college football that we have not seen utilized in our UMass telecast this season. As you take a look at big Corbin Kaufusi, played a couple of years of men's basketball at BYU, 6'9", 275 pounds, had a sack in the first half. That's the second block kick this season for Kaufusi.
And the thing about Kaufusi is you just don't grow him like that. And the ability to play defensive end, you know, if a pro team gets a hold of him, they can get him the whole 3 hots and a cot, or for someone his size, 6 hots and a cot, and put him in that weight room and throw some more weight on him. He can be an animal out there.
So after the fair catch brought out to the 25-yard line, looks like they go to that first play from scrimmage in the first quarter as their first play from scrimmage in the second quarter, not fumbled this time by Hefo coming around.
And there's Kaufusi, 6'9", 275, 25 and a half sacks, and that's what people are going to love about him at the next level. There are 2 guys who are going to be drafted, to me, guaranteed. Kaufusi is one of them, and Andy Isabella for UMass the other.
Wilson trying to run with it. 4 carries, 45 yards in the first half for the freshman quarterback. He picks up a couple here.
And Ogbonna's going to have to come out of the game because his lid rolled off. I've always thought they could have re-examined that rule. I mean, sometimes a guy's helmet pops off because he hits the ground, or there's a buckle malfunction.
Tyshawn Ingram into the game.
And that's the thing, is that now you got to put Ingram in there, when in reality you'd love to have Ogbonna in there on 3rd down.
Put it on your long list of grievances.
Yep.
Growing by the day. Wilson to throw on 3rd down. Shovels it forward. First down for Hadley.
Great play. Great tackle by Bryce McAllister there. But a heads-up play by Zach Wilson. Slides out of the pocket. I mean, this isn't a pass. This is more of a flip. Good job by Hadley. I like this Matt Hadley. Does a good job of getting north-south pretty quick once he gets the football in his hands.
He's a throwback. He plays linebacker as well. We've seen him in the return game. Had the 59-yard screen pass reception. That big play on the final drive at Boise that ended with Wilson being sacked. That's off the fingertips of the tight end Holker on first down.
That would have been the second big play for Dallin Holker. And Zach Wilson, a true freshman, he comes in with not a lot of gaudy stats, but you can tell what Kalani Sitake is doing by starting the young kid Wilson. They need to get him experience. He clearly has a handle on the offense. Now they just got to get him reps.
Throws outside, and UMass is there and ready for it.
Boy, what a shock that Jarrell Addo was around the football, and there you see the backup quarterback, Tanner Mangum. 25 years old, Mangum. beat out of the starting quarterback job, but has handled it like a man and has done a really good job of trying to help Zach Wilson grow into the role. Kalani Sitake told us how proud he was of the way Mangum has handled the situation.
After the 3-yard pass play to Micah Simon, Wilson looking on third down across the middle, and it is off the fingertips of Bushman and incomplete. UMass almost had the interception. Isaiah Rogers off his fingertips, and fourth down coming up for BYU.
Yeah, normally when a ball hits the hands of Isaiah Rogers, it's his. So it gets tipped into the air and then oh so close, and that would have been a big swing in field position if Rogers had been able to corral that football right around midfield. Instead, it's going to be a punt.
Wind picks up a little bit more. Again, a low bouncing punt off the foot of Allman, just trying to get some positive yardage, not messing around with kicking it high into the wind, and it rolls dead at the 26-yard line. So UMass will bring the offense onto the field for the first time. Ross Comas in the first half was 11 of 16 passing for just 75 yards. Remember, 540 yards against Liberty last week. Conditions have deteriorated here with the wind continuing to pick up, and it's just been tough to throw anything downfield.
Yeah, and I think this BYU defense is trying to make sure to take away a lot of that short to intermediate stuff that Ross Comas really likes, and Mark Whipple told us heading into the game he really wants to slow it down, and he does that by just putting 2 wide receivers on the field and a fullback in the game to start the second half.
5 catches for 31 yards for Andy Isabella in that first half, as BYU did a good job keeping him out of his rhythm. Came into the game leading FBS football total yards at 1,394.
Boy, Chineno Agbana almost got that ball. He almost picked it right off of the foot of Rhett Allman there.
Comas underneath to Young. Young is grabbed at the 30-yard line. 3rd down and 6 play coming up.
I'll tell you what makes that play from Rhett Allman tough, the punter, is that it looked like he was holding the football by the laces. So you're thinking as he's running kind of towards the line of scrimmage that maybe there's an opportunity for him to throw the ball there, and instead it's that, squirrely bird punt, let it roll 50 yards.
UMass needs the 36-yard line for a first down, and a big sack as Comas is leveled.
Big one by Rhett Sandlin, the linebacker coming off the edge untouched, and boom! That's a big hit, and a good, clean hit there by Sandlin as well. Boy, it's a big sack for the BYU defense, and bringing it with second-level pressure. Big-time play for the BYU defense to start the second half.
Georgopoulos, who has a 54-yard punt in this game today. This one will take a big bounce forward for the Minutemen and roll down to the 25-yard line.
Well, we talked about the BYU defensive line, but they bring second-level pressure. Rhett Sandlin unabated to the quarterback. It'll be Cougars football when we return to Gillette Stadium.
14-10 BYU back on offense. Before the snap, here's Bill Spalding.
All right, Eric, during this week, Mark Whipple told us in the 4th quarter of the Liberty game, the coaches made a concerted decision to try and be more positive and upbeat, and that's carried over into this game. I've noticed even after some of these rough offensive drives, it's really calm. It's really encouraging. It can be mad chaos sometimes when you're getting all the coaches together on the bench. There is none of that. Everybody's focused. Everybody's calm, cool, and collected.
Squally Canada turns the corner, gets away from Brighton Barr. Barr finally makes the tackle out near midfield.
The BYU offensive line doing a great job with a push at the line of scrimmage to make the route Brighton Barr has to take to the ball carrier that much more rounded off. And you see Barr did kind of take a step forward, but the edge was there for Canada. And if it wasn't for Brighton Barr's hustle, that thing might have gone to the house.
25-yard run for Squally Canada. Now Hadley Tossing it back to Wilson. Wilson throwing deep, and it is caught. What a grab. Powell hauls it in at the 10.
Boy, that ball hung up in the wind from Zach Wilson, and I thought it might get turned into an interception. But this is just a straight-up flea flicker with a post route from a wide receiver. The ball hung up there. What a catch by Neil Powell.
40-yard completion. First and goal from the 10. On the ground, Hadley inside the 5. Oh, we've seen a couple of trick plays from BYU so far in this game. Hadley tried the halfback option pass, and now we've seen the little flea flicker, the toss back to Wilson, and Pau hauling it in, sophomore from Anaheim, California.
Pau, a big receiver, too, at 6'4", needed all that length.
Again on the ground. Again, it is Matt Hadley. Third and goal coming up.
You know, we talked about the pace of the game, and there are times where UMass wants to go really fast offensively. Today has not been one of those days, and I think from the BYU and Kalani Sitake's perspective, that fits what they do. They are not an explosive offense. They try to hold you to 17 or less. This will go a long way to getting the Cougars a victory if they can punch it in the end zone here on 3rd and goal.
UMass brings big Mario Patton in for this 3rd and goal from inside the 3. Hadley bounces it outside, and he's into the end zone for another BYU touchdown. Big running play from Canada, big pass play from Wilson to Pau, and then Hadley caps it off for the Cougars.
And watch number 7, Joseph Norwood. He had a chance to make the tackle, but instead, not only does he run by Hefo on the return motion, if he had motored down and stayed close to the line of scrimmage, he would have run right into him.
Point after is good, and that is going to be one thing that's going to bother UMass. Think about that Wilson run in the first half on 3rd down and 8. They had an opportunity to get the freshman quarterback, but he busted off that run, and BYU turned it into points. So some missed tackles causing some problems here for the Minutemen, now down by 11.
Well, BYU hits UMass with a trick play where they get the ball down the field to Neil Pau, and then the rushing touchdown from Matt Hadley.
Five plays, 75 yards, took 2 minutes and 21 seconds. Hadley, a 2-yard touchdown run to put BYU on top 21-10, trying to even their record at 5-5 on the season. They have had some heartbreaking losses, 3 of their 5 losses by 5 points or less, but starting to spread things out a little bit here at Gillette. Marquise Young fumbled the football. It's the 3rd time today the ball's been on the ground for UMass. They've recovered those fumbles, but Young is hit back inside the 15-yard line.
Well, and the one thing you can't do once you pick it up is decide to do a pirouette, spin around, not go anywhere, and allow the kick return team to be able to tackle you inside the 15-yard line. That's a mistake there by the senior running back returner. And I know Mark Whipple talked about, hey, let's slow down. Let's try to take the air out of the ball. I think at some point, regardless of the wind, they're going to have to start to throw the ball a little bit. And he went backwards. That's the one thing you can't do when you misplay the football is go backwards.
Ross Comas, 79 passing yards so far against this BYU defense. That one's incomplete. There's been some low throws. Isabella unable to haul that one in on 1st down.
You know, when you see Andy Isabella right there, it looks like a little gingerly kind of jogging on the knee. So last week we chronicled that his knee was bothering him, and you could see it looks like there's one of those sleeves on underneath. but Isabella had that down over his calf in the first half. So it looks like he either adjusted it, has just gone to a knee brace, or maybe there's a calf issue with Isabella we need to keep an eye on.
Isabella had 4 receptions on that opening drive, just 1 catch, make it 2 catches since as he hauls that one in. Taki has been all over the field for BYU defensively. He's there first for the tackle.
Yeah, tackle is what his name should be. He has been a monster today. You knew I was going to get one in. That's why you looked at me.
I still laugh at it, even though I can see it coming.
Oh, yeah.
Down Route 1.
He's been fantastic, just like Ross Comas needs to be here on 3rd down.
3rd down and a long 4. Comas underneath the Fredericks, but BYU is waiting for him. Isaiah Kafusi. Corbin's cousin is there.
Isaiah Kafusi on the tackle.
And it's 3 and out for the Minutemen.
UMass makes a living on throwing these crossing routes, but look at what Ross Comas is looking at. Look at 6'9" Kafusi right there in the middle. And the reason we bring that up is because while Comas is 6 feet tall, all he sees are defenders in white over the middle, taking away the easy throw.
Georgopoulos end-over-end punt, an opportunity here for Shelton on the return, but that doesn't last very long as he bobbled the punt, and UMass is there quickly on the coverage, and BYU will go to work in very good field position. Join us 5:30 Eastern Time today. More college football will be on our digital channel on twitch.tv. The College of San Mateo hosting the City College of San Francisco. It is on our digital channel, 11 next. 6:45 to go, 3rd quarter. BYU is down 10-0 after the first 2 UMass possessions. UMass converted the game's only turnover into 7 points, but BYU has done all the scoring since that time. Canada moves forward for a few yards. Squally Canada had a big game against Wisconsin, the signature win for BYU this season, and Canada leaves the field. And quickly getting some assistance. Canada had 118 yards and a couple of touchdowns in that win over then 6th-ranked Wisconsin. Gonna take him behind the 10. Wilson, we had a big wind gust just as that pass was thrown, and it seemed to impact things. Intended for a back read, and it's a complete 3rd down play coming up.
And Zach Wilson's going to get him lined up right away, keep this UMass defense from changing personnel, and then get the play call from the sideline.
Third and 6. Here comes the blitz. And the pass is broken up. It's a fumble. They say it's a completed pass and a fumble. I saw the blue beanie come out. Now the officials are going to have a little discussion. And I think it's going to go into the books after all that as an incomplete pass.
Boy, and Chidenu Agbana was right there to be able to snag that football. They bring the blitz. Watch Brighton Bar. There's the delay. See, there comes the hair flying in to get Zach Wilson. He still gets it out of his hands. Does a good job on the delay, and Jarrell Addo flies from the middle linebacker spot to be there to knock that football out. Boy, I don't know. That was it looked like El Bakri had that football tucked in.
Punt will be down at the 14-yard line with 5:49 to go in the 3rd quarter. We'll take a timeout here at Gillette Stadium. So UMass gets a stop on defense. Can they get things going offensively? We'll find out next. UMass has had a big play offense this season. 13 plays. When you add it all together, offense, defense, and special teams of 50 yards or more for 9 touchdowns. So the offense has had a hand in that. Andy Isabella, the biggest hand. His catches against Liberty, 48 yards, 58 yards, 61 yards, 89 yards. Can they generate a big play here against BYU? They go to the ground on 1st down. Marquise Young, he left the field a moment ago after that kick return. something around his eye, but looks like he's okay.
Yeah, they haven't been able to establish Marquise Young in the running game, I think, the way that Mark Whipple thought they could heading into this one, and now they go to 4 wide.
Umass would have been a pick six. Should have been a pick six. Isaiah Kafusi had it.
BYU has been sitting on it, and I think what Mark Whipple's going to have to do is pair up a route deep off of something like that from Andy Isabella. You know, Kafusi jumped the route. He knew it was coming and what was going on, but I think what you need is someone in the slot beside Isabella running a little stop and then a go route. So when everybody reacts to the pump fake to Izzy, you can take a shot.
Third down. Umass will throw, and it is broken up. Good defensive play by Troy Warner, covering the tight end Horn.
Well, and I think that Kyle Horn has done about as good a job as he can this year in trying to develop into a receiver. But as we know from calling these UMass games the past 2 seasons, that Adam Brenneman, the tight end, was such a big force in the middle of the field that it allowed these wide receivers to eat. Now everything goes off Andy Isabella, and they just haven't developed that presence in the middle this year.
UMass 0 for 3 on third down here in the second half, and a fair catch called for by Shelton. And again, good field position for BYU, close to the 40-yard line, as they get set to go to work with 5:05 to go. So very quick possession for the Minutemen.
Well, and if you're BYU right now, you're thinking, let's put this game away. We're on the road. We've flown, 3,000 miles to get here, as you see UMass head coach Mark Whipple. And offensively, BYU has done a pretty good job. They're not explosive, but when they have the ability to run the ball and convert on third down, they keep churning.
Pau comes around, first down, and a little bit more for BYU.
Well, now you see next layer out of the run game where they bring Pau around and hand him the football, and he is a big guy to be able to bring down. You know, they got a lot of unique sizes on this offense. Like you saw Gunnar Romney there. He's 6'3", and there's Canada going back to the locker room.
14 yards on first down, and it's caught. Pau is having a big day, although he's banged up on this play. He'll roll right over to the BYU sideline.
Yeah, and it's raw and cold here at Gillette Stadium. You're standing out there with whatever equipment that you have on, and any little ding that you get, it's going to feel that much worse with just that raw feel here.
Working quickly on the ground, it's Hadley. Hadley down to the 11-yard line.
Boy, talk about field position. What a difference for BYU. Last 3 drives starting on their own 31. It felt like in the second quarter they were starting at the 10-yard line all the time. And conversely, UMass with bad field position to start the second half.
Back to the ground, Hadley takes it outside, and he's a guy who looks for contact. When you're a linebacker by trade,
yeah,
and now you're running the football here as a redshirt senior, you don't shy away from contact.
And I think the other thing too is that when you have that defensive mentality, you're thinking, oh, that's a defensive back. I'm going to drop my shoulder. He's not going to want to play to contact. And that's exactly what he did right there against Isaiah Rogers. Stuck the shoulder in his chest, and Rogers just kind of pushed him out of bounds versus coming up and hitting him and making a tackle.
2nd and 1. Hefo. Going to be just short for the touchdown.
Oh, my.
It will be a first down, though, so 1st and goal from inside the 1 for the Cougars.
You know, I was going to say that if you're BYU, you might want to challenge that. Then again, you know, burn the clock. Now, we're kind of blocked out by the field goal post right there. Let's take a look at it from this side. Did that ball get in the end zone? That looked like a touchdown to me. But BYU will be more than happy to run some clock here.
Wilson Was that the design play?
I don't think so. I think that was a busted play, and Joe Previty was right in there on Wilson to force him to have to do something with the football. So good penetration by Previty, but, yeah, that looked like a busted play to me. I mean, Jarrell Addo is standing out there waiting for Wilson. I don't think that was the design.
Previty's had a good game today. Addo has had a great run over the last several weeks. 40 tackles total in the previous 4 games heading into this one today. They try the running play again to Hefo, and Hefo will get in this time, leaving no doubt another BYU touchdown. 27 unanswered points for the Cougars.
This is just a basic rocket sweep, jet sweep, whatever you want to call it. The bottom line is Hefo in the end zone for the touchdown. And the Cougar fans are chanting BYU.
South Lamont to attempt the point after. 2:03 to go in the third quarter. 28-10 for the Cougars. I mentioned it before. It's a battle for bowl eligibility for BYU. They need 2 wins. You would think this game and New Mexico State their best chances with Utah still on the schedule. The Desert Duel has gone to the Utes the last 7 years. But plenty for BYU to celebrate here today. Kafusi has been as advertised, a sack. He's blocked a field goal. Seen him back in pass coverage, and you can see he's head and shoulders literally above the rest.
It's pretty amazing how he stands out in so many ways and is a great weapon. But he's a piece of this BYU defense. We've talked a lot about him because of the opportunities that he will get at the next level. And then check this out. There's the Kafusi family, 67.5 career sacks. A lot of cousins there. Cousins, brothers, you name it.
Fair catch called for by Young, so they'll bring it out to the 25-yard line.
You know, I asked Kalani Sitake this week about the Polynesian football culture because, you know, even me, I played college football, but I didn't play with any of the Polynesian guys, and he talked about how, you know, in the Polynesian community, the tone is really set by the elders, and then everyone else kind of falls into place. And he said when you're putting together a football team, that's the great part about coaching some of these Polynesian kids because they're accepting of their roles. They go out and do it to the best of their ability. And if they can work their way up through either a family tree or to the NFL, it's because it's rooted in family and they follow the process of learning how to be good within those individual structures.
Umass to the ground to Young, and this BYU defense has been flying around a little bit. They came in giving up on average 22 points a game. This is a team we talked about Umass having some big plays on offense, most notably last week against Liberty, but BYU does not give up a lot of big plays. Just 25 times have they given up a play of 20 yards or more. That's good for 8th in all of FBS football. And if Umass is going to get some big plays, they're going against the wrong team right now.
Yeah, they need a first down right here. None in the third quarter.
Start with that, and Gomez will get that first down out to Isabella.
And there you go, and that's what you got to do. Start to work it to Isabella, and then everything can come off of that. But it'd be nice to be able to get one down the middle and a tight end and find a way to be able to work the middle of the field to make it easier to get to the outside. And again, Mark Whipple came in, I think, wanting to run it. Now he's got to start to fling it and call pass plays.
61 yards receiving now for Isabella as Young goes down for a loss.
Merrill Talialui, and I hope I got that right. I'm doing the best I can. I think we all are. The big beefer in the middle, 6'2", 310, making a play. He and Tonga rotate on the inside. And I think BYU's smelling pass rush here.
Umass catches them in the blitz, so they go short to Young, and that's a gain of about We'll call it about 6
And
players down for UMass. 2 players down.
2. Looks like we got Derek Dumays, the center, down, and Marquise Young stayed down after that tackle as well. Boy, Derek Dumays, the junior center for UMass, has been a big part of this offensive line. It looks like Young got stuck there on the tackle from Isaiah Kafusi.
Well, it's just a little helmet-to-helmet at the end, Andy.
Well, I think he took one right there.
Well, watch the second one here. Yeah, there's the second one there.
Yeah, there was definitely some helmet-to-helmet contact there. I mean, this BYU defense, they're big, they're thick, and they're physical.
Dumais is up. He's walking slowly, just about ready to pass Young right now, who is now just being helped up.
Well, and you lose one of the guards earlier in the game, or you rotate through your guards, that's one thing. When you have to go to a backup center, now does that person have the ability to make all of the line calls and the checks? Does the quarterback have to be a bigger part of it? Does a veteran guard then have to turn around and make it? It's really Larnell Coleman who ends up falling down and getting Dumais and kind of catching him on the back of the leg on that screen right there.
So Jalen Larry comes in for Derek Dumais. High snap from Larry. Comas pulls it in and throws it incomplete.
Well, and there's exactly what I was talking about right there. You bring in a backup offensive lineman. You got to get a shotgun snap. He's got someone lined up over him. And when the snap is high, you throw the timing of the play off completely.
Georgopoulos to punt again. He drops the snap and just has to do his best just to get rid of it. Goes pretty much straight up in the air, and it bounces down at the line of scrimmage. A live football and a heads-up play by BYU to get some return yards out of it as well.
Well, this third quarter, I mean, that sort of sums everything up.
It's almost like Rhett Sandlin's like, that counts, right? That counts. Yeah. Do I get credit for that? Well, the officials are actually talking it over here. Let's see what happened with the snap.
Well, George Georgopoulos, I mean, that's a great punt for an elevator shaft, but unfortunately doesn't work in the world of football. And then that is returnable.
That is the final play of the third quarter. All BYU as we head to the fourth. Came so easy the first few minutes of this game. UMass with a dominating drive to start the game. 14 plays, took 7 minutes and 3 seconds. First snap from scrimmage for BYU is a fumble. UMass turned that into 7 points. It was 10-0 Minutemen in the first quarter, but you can tell by the scoreboard this game belongs to BYU right now in UMass territory to start the fourth quarter. Wilson gets away from Addo, and Wilson picks up about 8 on first down.
You know, this Zach Wilson came in with 84 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns on the year, but he has been very impressive using his legs today to get out of trouble. There was the one busted play where he was able to break it around the right side and get a first down. He's done a good job of extending drives by getting out of the pocket and running.
Give to Hadley, who picks up a first down. You know, you mentioned talking to Kalani Sitake this week. He also talked about with the changing quarterback, you have to adapt to that quarterback's strengths and make it comfortable for him. You're not throwing him in there saying, all right, this is the offense, make it work. Like, well, how can we make this work for you? And you can see what he's got. He's got some feet. He can run the football. He's not forcing things in there, at least what we've been able to see today. Hadley has it, breaks a tackle. UMass has had their opportunities to make stops, but Hadley, very strong runner, keeps going, and he'll pick up a first down. And Wilson, a kid who just turned 19 in August, taking over here. Remember, he graduated from high school at the end of his high school football season, graduated early after December
Sure.
and
He was an
enrolled
early
in the
enrollee,
spring,
yep.
so he can take part in spring football. So pretty quick learning curve for this young man, but
Great poise,
he's figured
too.
it out, sure.
He has not panicked at all in the pocket.
Now we see Lopini Katoa, redshirt freshman, getting a carry. We don't see Squally Canada in the mix. With more on that, here's Bill.
All right, thank you, Eric. Just talked with the folks at BYU. Squally Canada is out for the game. Took a big hit in the third quarter. They brought him into the tent, ran him through a lot of different tests, and Squally Canada will not play for the rest of the game today.
All right,
Yeah.
Bill, thanks.
You could see he got his running lights crossed there.
Wilson throws the quick slant, and it is complete.
Well, and UMass offensively has just not been able to possess the football here in this second half. Some of that is field positioned, but BYU has done a really good job of running the football here.
They go back to the ground to Hefo, and Hefo is into the end zone for a BYU touchdown. 10-yard run, second of the game for Hefo. And BYU is on top 34-10.
A varied run game by BYU. A little bit of Zach Wilson, a little bit of Matt Hadley. Hand it to Hefo coming around the end. They got UMass defensively coming and going here in this second half.
Certainly has not helped the Minutemen that the UMass offense can't stay on the field. The defense has got to be tired out by now as BYU has put 35 on the board.
Doesn't matter who's been running the football for the Cougars. This time, Hefo gets in the end zone, and the Cougs are rolling.
"35 straight points for BYU, trying to snap a two-game skid and even their record at 5-5. Now with the breeze at his back, here's Mickelson to boot it away. Short kick taken by Young at the 7-yard line, but he slows down and BYU just jumps right on that opportunity, and Young is brought down at the 16-yard line.
You know, Charles Walker, the special teams coach at UMass, has been able to come up with some designs, big plays. We've seen big kickoff returns from Marquise Young. We've seen them play, pretty good special teams in terms of the return game. But boy, today, especially in this second half, just no field position whatsoever out of the kickoff return team.
Ross Comas on the field, 16 of 25 passing, 103 yards. His long pass play today, 20 yards. Quite the flip from last week. Problem is he's been under pressure and down he goes. Fourth sack today for BYU.
Rhett Sandlin again with his second sack on the day, and right tackle Larnell Coleman, only a redshirt freshman. He's had some issues this year in one-on-one pass protection, and that time he gets beat around the corner, and UMass playing behind the chains once again.
So Sandlin has a couple of sacks and a punt return. If I've got my math right on everything, right? He had the...
Yes, and I think the punt return counted while we were away. There was an announcement made in the stadium, and we didn't really know what was going on. But the bottom line is this BYU team has really settled in and settled down in the second half and played a whale of a third, and here starting the fourth quarter. Normally 3rd and 13 for UMass, you would say, all right, maybe they got a chance to be able to convert it. But on a day like today, this BYU defense has given up very little.
Thrown underneath, but there is BYU again. Isaiah Kafusi's had an outstanding day. He and Taki have led the charge for the Cougars.
And it's not even a big pass rush here by BYU. The ball comes out on time, but just nowhere to go. Kafusi right there to be able to tackle Horn. And the UMass passing game, oh boy, where did it go? Compared to last week, we're talking night and day.
Reynolds on to punt into the wind. Shelton calls for a fair catch right at the 50-yard line.
I mean, this is like what happened in the second quarter. UMass just can't get any field position. BYU rolling at Gillette Stadium.
Just can't get anything going here today. They are 0 for 5 on third down in the second half. And when it comes to missed opportunities, well, they capitalized early, and it looked like things were going their way, but then things started going BYU's way.
Yeah, there's a blocked field goal from Corbin Kafusi. And then this missed opportunity to get an interception for Isaiah Rodgers would have given them the ball just past midfield, or just inside midfield, excuse me. And then you see Ross Comas can't handle the snap. George Georgopoulos, the same thing. And then he kicked the ball straight up into the air. Ball handling has been an issue today for UMass, and then not able to take advantage of what opportunities have been there, have killed them as well. And BYU in total control of this football game, and in total control of this football game, not only on the scoreboard, but physically as well.
You see the yardage, especially in the second half, 199-27 for BYU as Wilson throws it complete. And they'll bring up a third down and a couple of yards here for the Cougars. Dax Milne with his first reception.
And you see Mark Whipple just has not been able to figure out how to get his offense going. No push at the line of scrimmage to get the run game going hurts.
Good pursuit here by the Minutemen. Looks like it's going to be a fourth down play coming up. Cole McCoubry tracking down Katoa.
Yeah, Barr and McCoubry have been playing together a lot in this game in the middle because of BYU's ability to run the football. And McCoubry is the heir apparent to Brighton Barr. Brighton Barr, the All-American candidate, pretty much leads the free world in tackles. And McCoubry is the future in Amherst. BYU taking their time. We got a lead. Going to milk the clock here a little bit.
Andy Isabella calls for a fair catch inside the 15-yard line with 9:02 to go in the fourth quarter.
Once again, field position. Ball's going to be placed on the 14-yard line. I think if we just looked at that second half field position, that it's starting, it's around the 15. It feels like pretty much here this whole second half. And normally Mark Whipple finds a way, right, Frito? Like even to create a big play. 2 weeks ago they're at UConn. They got to get a touchdown late. They find a way to do that. We know what happened in Liberty last week in the 3 overtime game, but just no answers today here against a very big, physical, mature BYU defense.
First and 10 for the Minutemen inside the 15-yard line. On the ground to Young. Pushes forward to maybe the 18-yard line.
The one thing this BYU defense has done well is play zone and not give UMass the cracks in defenses that they're used to creating.
Give Young 4 on that first down carry. So this will be the final game for UMass here in the Commonwealth. They still have the trip to Georgia next week. Final few plays for these seniors like Marquise Young, the senior out of Fairport, New York, 5th on the all-time rushing list. Comas looking for a deep ball, but no one down there, even with Isabella's speed. And we saw that closing speed last week against Liberty. Not going to be able to track that one down.
It makes me wonder if something's up with Andy Isabella. We noticed it last week. We haven't seen the limp today, but
a little bit, though. There's been a little bit.
You're right, and I think maybe because of the way BYU plays stylistically on defense, not as much man coverage, and the numbers in terms of FBS football, the leader in receiving yards per game, but we haven't seen like the return routes. We haven't seen him run the drag over the middle where they just flip it to him and let him make a play.
Third down underneath Brennan Dingle. Dingle makes a play to get a first down, and there is the first third down conversion for UMass in the second half.
And there's what I'm talking about right there. I mean, that would be an Andy Isabella play where you just run him on the short crosser, put it on him, and then let him try to make somebody miss and get the first down. Double crossers, easy throw for Comas, and a nice job by Brennan Dingle making a defender miss.
Getting away from Adam Pulsifer. Just a couple of yards for Young. Well, we talked about Marquise Young, 960 yards as a freshman, been very consistent throughout his career, had that 240-yard game against Buffalo his freshman year, going over the 100-yard mark 13 times in his career. How about his all-purpose yards? He had that 93-yard kickoff return for a touchdown this year, over 5,000 all-purpose yards in his career. Catch by Zach Simon out to midfield. Marquise Young is a guy who has made the most of his opportunity playing here at UMass, coming out from Fairport, New York, sharing some of his knowledge with some young men before the game here at Gillette. Dingle has another catch. About a half-yard short of the first down marker.
Marquise Young wrapped up in a little activity behind the play there with a BYU defender. You know, Marquise Young, 6'1", 210, just hasn't been able to stay healthy. It kind of feels like something is always hampering him, and I'd love to see him. Would have loved to have seen him play a full season where he was right and had his quicks and the ability to use his frame. You know, for a running back, he's got pro size at 6'1", 210. There's no question about that. It's just the ability to stay on the field and to stay productive. That's been the problem.
Another first down for the Minutemen. Now inside the 35-yard line of BYU. Tipped and caught by Isabella. So reception for Andy Isabella. Came in closing in on the single-season receiving record at UMass held by Jimmy Moore, set back in 1998. The career record for Tajay Sharp also within shouting distance. 264 yards needed by Isabella in the last 2 weeks, but playing BYU and Georgia. But this will help that number quite a bit as Isabella down to the 5.
Yeah, and work in the middle of the field there with Andy Isabella. Talked about the lack of tight end presence in this offense. Well, there you go. You get Izzy over the middle with an opportunity to try to make something happen. And again, I think a little bit of those quicks and bursts are gone, but he is grinding it out. I love Isabella's toughness.
23-yard reception. Comas has it. Comas reaches forward and he's in. Got that football across the goal line. Touchdown UMass. First points scored by the Minutemen since 4:12 to go in the first quarter.
Well, they bring the tight end across in Kyle Horn. They run the zone read with Marquise Young, and Ross Comas keeps it to get it into the end zone. And no point in kicking here. Time to go for 2 as Mark Whipple sends in Travis Reynolds at tight end. The Minutemen are going to try to put a deuce on the board here after that Comas touchdown run.
Comas with his 6th touchdown run of the season. Young in the backfield with Comas as they go for 2.
Isabella on the outside. Watch maybe a little pylon route.
Give this to Young, and Comas tries to push him in to the end zone, but there's no getting by that front for BYU.
Like we saw in that UConn game, trying to push him into the end zone.
So the conversion fails. It's 35-16 BYU. 5:16 to go in the 4th. Ross Comas playing his final game here in Massachusetts finds the end zone. UMass hockey returns to 11 Sports next Sunday. The Minutemen take on UNH, 2 o'clock Eastern time here on 11 Sports. UMass with win over Providence here on 11 Sports on Thursday night. top 10 matchup at the Mullen Center going to the Minutemen. Those two teams meet again tonight down in Providence. UMass getting their first point since the first quarter to make it a 35-16 game as Garcia boots it away. This one's heading towards the sideline, but it won't make it there, or will it? It will. Bring it back to the 35.
That's two off the foot of Cooper Garcia going out of bounds. Well, BYU has shown up as expected. Big, physical, mature defensively, offensively, no big plays, but it was really one big play off of from the feet of Zach Wilson that sort of got BYU rolling in that first quarter, ultimately led to them putting their first touchdown on the board, and they've settled in quite nicely, especially now that they're getting some starting field position.
First attempt for the 35-yard line.
Approaching 5 minutes to go here in the fourth quarter, and a change at quarterback as Jaron Hall is in at QB for the Cougars.
It looked like he was going to just run one play, and he walked over to the sideline, and one of the coaches on the BYU sideline just pushed him in the chest and told him to go back out there. Hall clearly thought he was just in for a play. Now it looks like he might get a series.
Hall, of freshman, in at quarterback. Replacing the true freshman, Zach Wilson. Holds on to it and has a couple of more. Third down play coming up. And now a timeout called by UMass. So if that is it for Wilson, he was 14 of 22 passing, 167 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Had a 40-yard pass play, but had that big 3rd down and 8 run.
Yeah, and a nice, tidy little performance there for Zach Wilson. Jaron Hall is now in the game, but in terms of Wilson, poise in the pocket. I thought he delivered the football well, threw it very well inside the red area, making some plays with his legs, and he's not spectacular, but he's steady and he doesn't panic. And those are traits that you want in a quarterback. You can grow the other parts of his game, but he has some inherent skills that you just can't teach.
8 carries, 53 yards for the quarterback. So he'll go into the books at the moment as the number 2 rusher for BYU behind Matt Hadley. 69 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown for Hadley.
And I think everybody on that BYU sideline is seeing what it's like when the sun starts to go down here at Gillette Stadium and the field is in the shade. Oof. With a little wind. It's biting.
Temperature 45 at kickoff, but dropping throughout the game as the wind blew in. That's going to be enough for a first down.
There's Zach Wilson and Tanner Mangum there. We talked about Mangum. He's got the blue jersey on, making the flex like he's pumping it up right there. And he's a guy who's older, had been the starting quarterback for a while, got beat out by Zach Wilson, and has now essentially turned into a player coach. Because you'd think that Mangum would end up getting some run here from Kalani Sitake with such a big lead, but instead it is the freshman Hall getting the reps, and you see no change from Mangum, sending in signals and doing what he do.
Riley Burtz moves it back inside to the 43-yard line. Next up for UMass, a trip to Georgia. Currently 5th in the playoff rankings. They will play Alabama in the SEC championship game, but a meeting with UMass next Saturday. Now, UMass has held their own against SEC teams. You remember 2 years ago they lost at Florida. They were down 10-7 in the 4th, so that was close in the 4th quarter. Here at Gillette in 2016 against Mississippi State, remember that shootout? 47-35, Bulldogs won that game. And then last year they were close to Tennessee and at Mississippi State, but came up short in each game. But this looks to be a different level of test coming up next week for UMass. Now, where will Georgia's head be with a date with Alabama on the horizon and trying to track down one of those top 4 spots in the playoffs? However, that looks like it's going to be a challenge for defensive coordinator Ed Pinkham and head coach Mark Whipple to try to come up with something that will work against Georgia.
Yeah, I mean, Georgia's a wagon, there's no question. But, you know, Georgia is also going to be thinking, if we don't win the SEC championship, we're not going to the college football playoff. So they are going to be thinking ahead. There's no way around it. And there is going to be that opportunity for UMass to come in the first quarter. And I think the first quarter tells us everything next week against Georgia. If the Minutemen go between the hedges and punch them between the nose, it maybe wakes Georgia up a little bit. Or you end up catching them looking ahead, because there's so much made of that Alabama-Georgia game. And when you put the stakes of not only an SEC championship but a berth in the college football playoff on that game, those kids can't help but starting to look ahead.
Looking ahead for BYU, they will host New Mexico State next week. New Mexico State 3-7 on the season. If they get a win next week, add that to the win here today, they will be bowl eligible. And we mentioned the finale is at Utah. Turning the corner is Burt, and Burt into the red zone. Knocked out of bounds inside the 20-yard line. Well, there's no question that when BYU looks back on the season, their best and biggest win was at Wisconsin.
Huge.
At the moment, ranked 6th in the country. But they needed this win here today. It's not going to go into the books as big as winning at Wisconsin, but this was a program that had lost 2 in a row to Northern Illinois and then to Boise State. Close games. Came in here. It was a slow start today. UMass marched down the field, got a field goal. BYU had a fumble on their first play from scrimmage. UMass turned that into 7 points and had a 10-0 lead. They desperately needed this win here today, and that desperation paid off. They're going to win at 35-16.
Looking at it from the Cougars' perspective, they fly 3/4 of the way across the country to get a victory that, as you mentioned, not only they need, but, you know, Kalani Sitake was very honest about it. And he was like, hey, we have aspirations here. We want to go to a bowl. Not only do we need this one, we need to prove something to ourselves. And I think BYU did that today in a very big way. Again, nothing spectacular offensively, just steady enough to be able to get the win. And unfortunately, it was really the third quarter that did the Minutemen in. Close at halftime. No field position for Mark Whipple's crew. And a loss here at Gillette Stadium to BYU.
After back-to-back victories over UConn and Liberty, UMass suffers a loss here today to fall to 4-7 on the season, with a trip to Georgia still to come from Mark Whipple's team. BYU now 5-5 on the season. Their trip to Gillette Stadium, a memorable one as they pick up a road win over UMass.